Good evening, I'm David.
And I'm Sharon.
We are your trusted real estate advisors here this evening to give you a little bit of advice regarding the process of selling your home. The first thing I want to definitely encourage you to keep in mind is that it is always best to have a real estate professional to list and sell your home. I know that there are a lot of people out there that like to go for sale by owner, but by hiring a real estate professional to do it, we do all of the paperwork for you. We handle all of the listing, we handle all of the marketing, advertising, we handle the whole process for you from soup to nuts. All you have to do is just come, sign the contracts, sign at closing, and it's done. You don't have to be bothered with showing. You don't have to be bothered with dealing with buyers coming in and out of your house. All of that is handled by us as the trusted real estate professionals that we are. I'd like to start out tonight by talking to you a little bit about the selling process. One of the first things I want to discuss with you is the idea behind pricing. How is it that we come up with the value of your home? One of the ways that we come up with the value of your home is a process called CMA, or comparative marketing analysis. What a comparative marketing analysis is it is a comparison of your property to a similar property that has recently sold within the last ideally 3 to 6 months. And based on that, we get an idea of the value of your property. Now, that's not necessarily a completely determining factor, because the other factors that are involved are the location, condition of your property, and the features of your home. All of that plays into the value. So for instance, you may have a neighbor a couple of doors down from you that recently sold their house, and they sold their house for $300,000. So you're like, okay, that sounds good, so I should be able to get $300,000 for mine. Well, that depends. It depends on the condition of their house. It depends on what's in their home. It also depends on the condition of your house and what's in your home. You may be able to get more than they got. You may not be able to get as much as they got, or you may have to list at the same price that they did. All of that is determined after we actually do an evaluation of your property along with the CMA. Because what the CMA gives us is it gives us a low, medium, and high price. And based on the condition of your property, we determine which bracket you fall into, whether you fall into the low bracket, the medium bracket, or the high bracket, based on those determinations. So next, we talk about
prepping your home for sale. Okay, so we're going to have offers. We're going to have people coming by wanting to look at your home. What happens at that point is that they're going to determine, first of all, if they even want to come in your house when they drive up. That's why we have to make sure that your home has good curb appeal. Lawn has to be cut if it's spring or summer. If it's in the fall, make sure the leaves are cleaned up. The bushes around the house are trimmed. Even the backyard, tidy it up. Just make sure that you keep it that way as long as we have the house listed through closing. Also, if the house is in need of pressure washing, go ahead and pressure wash it. You'll be surprised how that'll make a difference when a person drives up to the home. Now let's step inside the house. When we come in the house, people are seeing your house for the first time. So my suggestion to you is to remove all personal items. Remove pictures, remove knickknacks and things like that represent your family, because we don't want them coming in thinking of it as your house. We want them to be able to come in and see this as a new home that they're going to move into. So you need to depersonalize the house. The next thing you need to do is to declutter. Remove all stuff that you were gonna throw away, even old furniture that you know that I'm not gonna take this anywhere else and we're tired of it. Go ahead and get it out the house. Anything else that's laying around, if you don't want to get rid of it, at least box it up and take it out of sight so that it's not seen. This gives a prospective buyer the ability to really see your house, to see the dimensions of the rooms, and to really be able to visualize them living there. Those things are all very important. And another thing is that if you feel as though you need to paint a couple of rooms, that's fine. But make sure that when you paint that you're using neutral tones, colors that anybody could live with. If they move in and decide that they can't do anything right away with it, they say, oh, we could live with this. That this color is neutral, go with whatever they have. So those are the things you need to do as you prep your home for sale. Now, after you prep your home for sale, then we'll go on to marketing the house.
The next step in this process, because now we have discussed the CMA, so we've discussed value. We've also discussed what's necessary in preparing your house to sell. The next process involved here now is the actual listing agreement. The listing agreement is a contract between the seller and the broker. Basically, what this contract does is it gives the seller, it makes the seller aware of our fiduciary responsibilities to the seller, and it also shows the client's responsibility to us. It also allows us to be paid for the transaction. And it also allows us to legally represent you in the transaction. So that's the purpose of the listing agreement. And the listing agreement basically also gives us permission to actually list your home. So now, as part of the listing process, other than putting together all of the documents regarding different features and everything of your property, there's a section there that deals with the showing of your property, showing times, lockbox, and signs. Now, lockboxes and signs are not required. They're optional, they are not required. They are strongly recommended, but not required. Now, some people will choose to not have a sign on their lawn because they don't want their neighbors to know that they're selling. And that's fine. The reason why we encourage you to have a yard sign is so that there's more accessibility to a potential buyer. There could be somebody driving by or walking by or whatever that notices that your house is for sale. They could be a potential buyer. So by not having that sign, we may lose a potential buyer that could be passing by. The lockbox sometimes becomes an issue because people are concerned security-wise about people having access to their home, whether they're there or not. And what we try to explain to them is that the lock boxes that we use are electronic lock boxes. You have to have a lockbox key in order to access it, which is a special device that real estate agents carry. And when you access the lockbox, we get a notification as a listing agent that you're going into the property. So we have your name, your broker, the whole nine. So we're aware that you've gone in the property. We're aware if you were the last one to enter the property on the lockbox. We know all of that. The other thing is that most standard lockboxes here in Georgia, when you purchase them through our Georgia MLS, they by default are set up from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. However, they can be programmed to show whatever time we want. For instance, let's just say that you only wanted your property shown Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday from 12 noon to 6 p.m. We can program the lockbox so that access is only during those particular days and times that you've designated. No one would be able to access the property before 12 noon or after 6 p.m. So all of that can be set up. But even with that said, you still are under no obligation to have a lockbox. But if you don't have a lockbox, that means that someone has to be home at all times to show the property. And if no one can be home at all times to show the property, that's going to limit our ability to sell the property because it's going to affect access to the property. So that's one of the reasons why we encourage a lockbox if at all possible. The other thing is that in terms of showing time is also your choice. Now, ideally, we like anytime showing. We prefer that the property be vacant, though that's not always possible. We do appointments only, and basically however you want to schedule showings of your house, is what it'll be. If you want appointments only, it'll be appointments only. And no matter how you go about it, we would always notify you before someone came into your home. So we would always let you know. Here in Georgia, we use something called showing time. Agents will register through showing time that they want to see your property, or else they'll text us or reach out to us by phone to ask us, is the property vacant or is it available to be shown or whatever? And then we'll let them know, yes, you can see it, or no, you can't. But you're in control of all of that. You're in control of how often it's shown, when it's shown, whether it's a sign on the property or not, whether there's a lockbox on the property or not. We work for you. So whatever you want to do, we'll do. We just explain to you both pros and cons of either doing it or choosing not to do it. And so now we'll discuss what's next.
Yes, and that's our offer process. We've been going through all of this so that you can get an offer on your property. Now, as a real estate agent, I am required to present all offers that come in to you for approval or denial. And that's even after you have accepted an offer. Now, of course, if you've accepted an offer and you're under contract, you can't do anything with a second offer coming in. But what happens is that becomes a backup offer. In case something doesn't go through with the original offer that you have a backup offer that you can, go to. Now, with the backup offer, now that will, I'm saying that the backup offer is there, but also understand if the person is still available and still interested in the house. But the whole point is that all offers, you will see them. You'll see every offer that has been submitted for your house. Now, once we get a buyer, we get this prospective buyer and we've signed, what happens then is that the buyer has the option to inspect the house. And that's the way it should be. They need an opportunity to see the house again. So they have a time period in there where they can look at the house and see the house again, or they can also hire someone to come out and inspect the house for them, do a house inspection. And what comes out of that, either with them or them and the house inspection, is any types of issues that you may feel, as the buyer may feel, that should be brought up in conversation to you, the seller, that they feel as though you should address. It will come up during that time. And if they find something they feel that you should address or they would like you to address, then their agent will present something called an ATAC, which is an amendment to address concerns. She or he will present that to me, your agent. You and I will sit down and discuss it and see what, if anything, you want to address on this amendment. Once the two parties, the seller, the buyer, yourself and the buyer, come into agreement with what will or will not be addressed, and you're both satisfied, then you both sign, and now we have an official offer. Now let me back up. As offers come in, and I told you that I'm going to present every single offer to you, what we're going to do in the very beginning is establish the most convenient way to communicate. Some people like email, some like text, some like phones. I will use whatever form of communication that you say is your preference. In addition to that, I will also give you a phone call, leave you a voicemail, just to make sure that you see the offers that are coming in. So you don't have to be concerned about how you'll find out about these offers, because I'll make sure that you see everything that comes through. But basically, that's what happens during the offer process. And once you come to that agreement, you then step to the next step, which is the closing process, which David will explain to you.
Okay. I just want to back up for just a moment to the listing. One thing that's really important for me to point out is a lot of times when people are preparing to sell their house, they want to go and put a lot of money in their house thinking that it's going to add monetary value to the sale. And this isn't necessarily true. Some things will make the house more attractive to a buyer, but not necessarily add a dollar value. What I recommend is before you make any kind of changes or alterations once you decide to sell, have your real estate professional, your agent, come in and discuss it with him or her so that they can explain to you whether or not they see it as something that could potentially add monetary value or if it's just something that may make it more attractive to a buyer. Because most people, when they make changes to the house, they're doing it in thinking that they can make more money from selling the house. And then they get kind of disappointed when they realize that that's not the case. Me personally, I'd rather see a client take a few dollars off the sales price than to take money out of their pocket and put in. You know, that's just me, the way that I choose to do the business, because I don't like to see my clients, you know, put out a whole lot of money with the expectation that they're going to get all this money back. Because, for instance, if you got a $200,000 house and you go and you put $100,000 or $150,000 worth of rehab work in it and all of that, I can't get you $350,000 out of it. You know what I mean? I may be able to get you a little over the 200,000, but I'm not going to get you anywhere near 350. You know what I mean? So I don't want to see you put out monies that you can't get back. And the other thing that I wanted to mention to you too deals with how we market your home. Once your home is listed, we then place your home in an MLS system or a multiple listing service. In this multiple listing service, tens of thousands of agents have access to that listing service. We also will market your home internally. When I say internally, I mean within our individual brokerages. Also, your property will be marketed through the various different real estate websites. For instance, Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, and many of the others that are out there. We also market your home through social media, through Facebook, through Instagram. We can also list it in a magazine, different things like that. So there are a lot of opportunities and options that we have for marketing your home. Generally speaking, between the multiple listing service and the real estate websites, we're usually able to sell through them without really having to go any further. But we are prepared to go as far as we have to in order to get your property sold for the best price we can get for it, and also to get it sold as soon as we possibly can. Now, moving on to the closing. Once all of the contracts and everything are complete, signed off by you, signed off by the buyer, your agents have signed off and everything, then we, as the listing agent, will submit all documents to the closing attorney. Everything related to the transaction is submitted to the closing attorney. The closing attorney then orders title. They're ordering title because they want to make sure that there's no cloud on the title, no liens, no encumbrances against the property, or anything like that. So if they get back clean title, you know, no liens, no judgments, nothing like that against the property, title is clean. They gather up all of the paperwork that they have requested from the seller, all the paperwork that they requested from the buyer. If there's a loan involved, they've gotten the loan package. Once they have the file complete, they have everything that they need to close this transaction. At that point, we're cleared to close. Once we're cleared to close, then the next step is to schedule the actual closing. So then there's a date and time. We then sit down with our respective clients and coordinate a date and time that works for the two of them for us to close. We then, the agents, we then appear at closing with our respective clients. At this point, the closing attorney takes over. Now, here in Georgia, the closing attorney is the only attorney that's present, and the closing attorney represents the lender. In most states, or in some states, you may have to have like your own attorney and all of that at closing. Here it's just the one closing attorney, and like I said, he or she represents the lender. Now, the fact that they represent the lender does not mean that they're anti-seller, anti-buyer. They have a fiduciary responsibility to be honest and fair to all sides, and they are. They do a very good job of it. They will explain what you're signing, why you're signing it. They'll answer any and all questions that you have, and anything that you don't understand, don't hesitate to ask them, or don't hesitate to ask your agent. And so once that process is all complete, then whatever it is that the seller has to physically turn over to the buyer, keys, garage door openers, whatever it is, whatever is physically in the seller's possession that has to now be turned over to the buyer, is all turned over to the buyer at that particular point in time. If there's any extended warranties on anything or whatever, all of that is then transferred and turned over to the respective buyer. Once all of that is done, then we're at the end of the transaction. At that point, we congratulate one another on the sale. We wish one another well. And then at that point, the transaction is over with and everybody goes their separate ways. So if you have learned something from this, or, you have any thoughts or comments or whatever, please leave us a comment in the comment section. If you appreciate the information we've given, give us a like, subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. We'll be coming forth with many more videos dealing with the buying process, dealing with the lending process, dealing with real estate in general. Until next time, your real estate advisors, Sharon and David, signing off.